At 7 o'clock, I will call this meeting to order. Everybody, please rise for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Cook.
Here.
Roscoe.
Present.
Hott.
Here.
Wilczewski. Munns.
Here.
Feldhauser.
Here.
Spears.
Here.
Teeling.
Here.
Quorum is established.
Do we have any amendments to tonight's agenda? We have no presentations. We're doing 2 public hearings. Now, what's the deal with this one, Bart? Is this getting postponed, or?
The petitioner has asked for it to be continued to the next city council meeting.
So we just open it and then postpone it and close it?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll open public hearing for PC 2013-03, Veterans Way LLC petitioner has filed an application with the United City of Yorkville, Kendall County, Illinois, requesting a major amendment, the second amendment to the Heartland Subdivision Annexation and Planned Unit Development dated January 11, 2005, related to the Heartland Business Center to permit the placement of an additional 10-foot by 16-foot sign with 11 tenant sign panels within the driveway median of the subject property. The real property consists of approximately 5.1 acres of the common area located generally south of US Route 34, west of McHugh Road, and north of Heartland Drive at 728 East Veterans Parkway, Yorkville, Illinois.
Just you want to date it so we not regular meeting.
Okay, so we will postpone this until the next regular meeting of the City Council. That sounds about right, Dave?
Precisely.
Okay. All right, we'll close public hearing. Thank you. Next, we have a public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2013-14 budget. So I'll open public hearing for the budget. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak on the proposed 2014 budget? Yes?
Your Honor, I have a petition to submit
Okay.
under the public hearing.
Okay.
It's a petition to keep senior discount for trash removal. It's from the residents of Garden Circle. I attended a meeting with them this Saturday, and they said it's hard for a lot of these people to get here. So they asked me if I would bring a petition forth on their behalf, and about 30 or so people listed on this petition.
Okay, we'll enter that into the record. Do we have any public who wants to comment on our budget?
Good evening. My name is Paul Lum. I'm CAP Program Director with Voluntary Action Center. My nonprofit agency runs the CAP program. I'm here once again to urge you to fully fund the CAP program for next year and abandon plans to eliminate Yorkville's local match contribution. The relatively modest amount of funding provided by the city has a huge impact on the safety, security, and quality of life for hundreds of Yorkville residents. Funding cuts and elimination of program participation will adversely affect the well-being of hundreds of people, from infants to senior citizens who rely on the services we provide to help get them through the day. As I spoke at the last meeting, the Voluntary Action Center needs Yorkville funding to provide rides to Yorkville residents in need. This funding is also a critical source of local match for state and federal grants that really provide the foundation of funding for these programs to Yorkville. These funds are critical and should not be viewed as unimportant, unnecessary, or somehow replaceable. You have the opportunity tonight to acknowledge your support for the services you have helped fund since the beginning of CAP several years ago. You have the opportunity to recommit, as your predecessors did, to the value of these services for the residents of the United City of Yorkville. Thank you.
Do you have any other citizen comments on the budget?
Hi, my name's Amy Sesich, and just to sort of expand on his comments, I live here in Yorkville. As a Kendall County board member, I can definitely say that if you guys pull out the CAP program, then it does affect our grant applications and things like that for funding of CAP. Also, with CAP being the way it is in the community, if you remove it from Yorkville, it's sort of an integral part of the whole system. So it would really affect, I think, everybody, not just residents of Yorkville.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I did call you and some of the people stop cutting the budget because the bus comes to AID to pick me up, then take me to Target workshop. If I don't have no transportation, that means no work for me. And I enjoy the transit bus very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
You like working at Target?
I work at the one in Oswego.
Okay. We're gonna get you a job at the one in Yorkville. Any other citizen comments on budget? And now we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget. We're going to citizen comments on other agenda items. Okay, hearing none, we have no consent agenda. We do have 2 sets of minutes for approval. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular city council meetings for February 12th, 2013, February 26th, 2013, as presented.
So moved.
Comments, questions, corrections on the minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as is, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, both sets of minutes approved. We do have an informational item of bills for payment. Bills for this period are $583,379.96. Moving on to mayor's report, we do have a couple of items. The first is the Briarwood Cornerstone subdivision. I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing the execution of the second amendment to the annexation and plan unit development agreement with JAC Kendall Holdings LLC, Briarwood Cornerstone subdivision, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
Second.
Comments, questions on this motion? Yes, sir.
Just a legal question. We're not setting a precedent with these reduced fees, are we?
Bart, you can address that better in terms, we're not setting a precedent legally at all, but you can address that as to how I think this equalizes the playing field, doesn't it?
It does for certain fees. The one, I guess, policy precedent we'd be setting is we're essentially in this subdivision, we're eliminating the impact fees in favor of a higher building permit fee. That eliminates restricted funds to the city and adds unrestricted funds. So we have more flexibility with that money. We can use it for code services, we can use it for police, we can use it for whatever we want. So I guess that's the main policy precedent we're setting. Again, like Kathy said, that's not a legal precedent. Each annexation agreement is unique. You're allowed to negotiate pretty much whatever you want within a certain reason for each subdivision.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Muntz?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Bunkhauser?
Aye.
Olszewski?
Aye.
Keeling?
Aye.
Coe?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Okay, next we have an extension request for the building incentive program. This will be the second extension. We're looking to extend it this time for an additional year with no limitation on the number of permits. As everyone knows, the program has been a pretty good success, had a lot of trust, and we would like to see that program keep going. Comments, questions on the extension? Yes, sir.
Well, I think it's also practical to be voting against it. I think that the focus of this council has to have in the future is towards the homes that are currently vacant. I mean, it's great that we're building new houses, and I'm all for that, but we can't ignore the homes that are currently vacant. And until we have and I know we're talking about it, and it's a committee, and we're working on it, but until we have a formula or a program in place that's going to assist vacant properties, not just vacant lots, at this point, I'm going to, once again, vote against the building program.
Yeah, I think everyone's in agreement. I mean, it's the harder nut to crack.
Yeah.
So, any other comments? On the bill extension? Yes, sir.
Well, I fully support it again. I think it's been a huge success. My question, though, is when you say 1 year, are we talking fiscal year, or are we talking a year from right now?
A year from today. If it's
Or a year from when the ordinance is approved. So we would intend to draft the ordinance and bring it back.
Just the total number that we had this year, did we get our max?
this calendar year or this?
Or, well,
Oh, we haven't hit our max, but we're 5 permits away from that.
okay.
So we're at 55 right
Yeah, we did, the last renewal was 30 without restriction of time, I believe.
now. No, it was 35 a year, so
Okay.
June would have been the end of the program.
You know, there's no real motion on the table, it's just direction. I got one no, any other no's? Okay, I think we're going to extend it and bring it forward. Okay, next is Public Works Committee report.
Okay, we have a Public Works 2012-74, an ordinance approving the amendment to the amended intergovernmental cooperative agreement between the United City of Yorkville and the Yorkville Bristol Sanitary District regarding billing for district services.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Comments or questions on this one? Yes, sir.
The committee recommended a 5-year with a percent increase over after the first couple or each year, and then the board's only in 2 years no increase. Why is the staff recommending that?
Well, it's towards the end of the fiscal year for us. Each year it's kind of a handshake agreement with the sanitary district to calculate all the costs that we have in doing their bills. Talk to them over the phone, come to an agreement at the staff level based on the budget too, and then we send them an invoice for that. So, at this point, we said it was only a 2-year agreement is what they're proposing. This 5-year just makes it a lot easier for us. It actually increases our share this year just slightly. And then that'll give us basically a year to figure out how we're going to do this going forward.
Mike, you said 5-year was better?
We did. They had approved a 2-year agreement, so we're okay with that. That gives us the ability really to think about this for another year because we're almost a year into this. We haven't built it out for this past year's services yet. So this would set the fiscal year 13 amount.
Does the 5% cover the administrative costs to the city?
Yeah.
We're not losing money on the property.
No, I mean, it's all based on time for taking phone calls, responding to complaints, paper, stamps,
That's all
people's
covered with
salaries.
5%?
Yeah.
Have we billed to the 5%? It says we shall be entitled to deduct, but have we billed to the full 5% or are we billing below that?
Currently?
Yes.
Based on last year's figures, it would have been just below 5%.
Just below as a percentage of a point below?
I think it was like 0.5% maybe. We were between 4.5%, 4.75%.
Yeah, something like that.
As a total billing perspective.
And we're going at that partial not the full 5%, because that's just covering our costs. That's all we're going up to.
I guess I don't understand your question.
You're calculating the cost that it is for the city to do the billing. We're just covering that and not exceeding that. We're just charging them for what it costs us.
Correct.
And that's based on an hourly, a labor rate and materials.
Yes. Yeah, and it would be our intent to revisit that and evaluate it each year. So, if it ever went one way or another for either organization, I would think that we would readdress it. And that's one of the reasons why, we set this for 2 years in advance. That gives us a year to figure out what that correct formula is, and then to set a place to evaluate that each year.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Spears?
Aye.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Funkouser?
Aye.
Olszewski?
Aye.
Teely?
Aye.
Coe?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Muns?
Aye.
Okay, no economic development, no public safety, no administration. We have 3 items from Park Board. The riverfront businesses, contract extensions, and there's 3 of them, so we'll take all 3 of them separately. So I'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution approving the lease extension agreement with Eric Cole doing business as River City Roasters, 131 East Hydraulic Avenue, Unit C, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the resolution and the interim director of Parks and Recreation to execute the lease agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions?
I did have quick figures. Councilman Olszewski had asked me the email with each business is generated, and I had not responded. So just briefly, Geneva Kayaks rent is, for the past couple years, was $250 per month, so that's $3,000 annual. River City Roasters and Whitewater Ice Cream were both at $200 a month, so that's $2,400 annual. Geneva Kayaks, 5% concession to the city was just over $10,000. River City Roasters was just over $2,300, and Whitewater Ice Cream was just over $1,100 for the past fiscal year.
Okay, comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Funkouser?
Aye.
Olszewski?
Aye.
Teely?
Aye.
Coe?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Muns?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution approving the lease extension agreement with Robin Sutcliffe doing business as Whitewater Ice Cream, 131 East Hydraulic Avenue, Units A and B, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the resolution and the interim director of Parks and Recreation to execute the lease extension agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions on this one? Roll call, please.
Teely?
Aye.
Coe?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Muns?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Funkouser?
Aye.
Olszewski?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution approving a lease extension agreement with Specialty Expeditions, Inc., doing business as Geneva Kayak Center, 301 East Hydraulic Avenue, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the resolution and the interim director of Parks and Recreation to execute the lease extension agreement.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Coe?
Aye.
Cott?
Aye.
Muns?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Funkouser?
Aye.
Olszewski?
Aye.
Teely?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we wish you all continued success. Okay, next is the Plan Commission. An ordinance approving the Kendall Crossing PUD final plat. We do not have a motion in the packet, though. Is everything ready to go on that part?
Yeah, it should be a motion to approve subject to engineering approval of the engineering
Final
plans.
plat and engineering.
Okay, so I will entertain an ordinance approving the Kendall Crossing PUD final plan subject to final plat submission and engineering comment.
Revision.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions on this one? Roll call, please.
Cott.
Aye.
Munns. Spears.
Aye.
Pelosi.
Aye.
Funkhauser.
Aye.
Laschewski.
Aye.
Teeling.
Aye.
Coe.
Aye.
Okay, no ZBA, no city council report, city clerk's report, city treasurer's report, no city treasurer. Community and liaison reports. Yes, ma'am.
I do have two reports. The first one is regarding ChemCom. On February 28th, ChemCom's executive board approved a contract agreement with Everbridge Company to provide a countywide emergency notification system for all 11 agency members of ChemCom. The cost is $25,480 a year to provide unlimited phone, email, and text alerts countywide. This is a one-year contract which is renewable for 4 years at the same rate. This amount will be shared by all 11 agencies. Residents will be able to sign up for emergency notifications and non-emergency notifications through their municipalities. Residents who sign up are expected to receive weather alerts, road closures, community events, and even boiler orders. Everbridge's contract includes online training and 24/7 technical support. The next item that was discussed is the Village of Montgomery joining ChemCom. Last week, the Montgomery Village Board approved joining ChemCom in shutting down the Montgomery Police Department's dispatch center. Montgomery will not get a seat at the ChemCom Executive Board. However, they will be included in ChemCom's Operations Board. And the last item, annual dues. Invoices for ChemCom's annual dues will be sent out now, but members can pay after their new May budgets. And the next report is on the Illinois Area Agency on Aging. Illinois House Bill 6178 and Senate Bill 3923 proposed a pharmaceutical assistance program that would target those at greatest risk, either disabled or age 65 and over, with incomes no more than 200% of the federal poverty level and countable assets of no more than $13,070 per single person or $26,120 for a couple, and who has applied for federal extra help. The original bill applied only to those that were age 65 and over, but it was amended to include younger people with disabilities. Medicare drug plans designate preferred pharmacies where prices are lower for the plan's enrollees, but many people do not understand this system. A pharmacy that is preferred by one plan may not be preferred by another, while other plans do not have preferred plans at all. So the system is very, very confusing to many. Occasionally, mail orders can be less expensive than retail. Sometimes the difference is substantial, and other times it's very modest. Next is the Affordable Care Act. They provided funding for hospitals, doctors, and other providers to replace written medical records with electronic systems, which are not only more efficient, but they can reduce duplicate testing and treatments and reduce errors such as drug interactions. The Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services has already paid more than $3.6 billion in incentives for the installation of electronic systems, and its 5-year total is expected to be almost $7 billion. And that's it.
Well, do you have any idea how Montgomery joining ChemCom is going to impact us financially?
Actually, they're going to be contributing quite a bit, and the only additional expense is they probably need 2 new ChemCom operators, but it's going to come out of the money that they are contributing. So it's not supposed to have any financial impact on us.
I mean, not even a lower share of the cost sharing, or?
They haven't really discussed that, Gary, because they're still going through all their equipment and everything like that. But I think eventually when they're in, it would be 11 or 12, and then we're going to have to share it that way.
Okay. Any other community liaison reports? I have a conference call with Congressman Hochman tomorrow morning. I think tomorrow morning.
Thursday.
Oh, today's only Tuesday? Thursday morning. But I told him the other day I really want to discuss about 47 funding and how we can transfer that money to the south up north. So that's my one more contention for Panthers call. My staff reports.
Reports?
Okay, next on to start talking about our proposed 2014 budget. Okay, just to give a little background, I know a lot of these cuts that came out were very controversial, and the only reason they came about was after the November election, I mean, we had about 70 or 80% of the people voted to lower tax levies by 20%, and they were advocating for lower property tax levies and reduced spending. So that's when we really started talking hard as staff and on the budget and what else we could cut. We want to help control costs. And the fact is there's not much left in the budget to cut, aside from personnel. We're down, the city's down to 2005 staffing levels. There's not much you can trim to save more money. So we had to look at services. I asked for suggestions from staff, I gave some suggestions, and I told staff nothing was sacred. And let's throw it out on the table, discuss it, debate it. There's nothing sacred. We know it's going to be controversial, but let's talk about it anyway. Number one suggestion that came out was cut elected officials' health insurance. We dealt with it, in an equitable way, and it was being phased out. Other cuts range from turning off lights in the parks at night, getting rid of porta potties, and little things. One of the things that I mixed right away was the chief said, if we have to cut that, some personnel would have to be a school resource officer. Obviously, that's unacceptable. We worked hard to get our police staffing levels up, and we're not going to be cutting there. Someone else suggested we follow out with city's attorneys.
I'm sorry for suggesting that.
But obviously, none of the cuts are popular, but right now, it may be. We're limited in budget with about $700,000. Obviously, the path of least resistance is just throw it all back in the budget and move on. But now we're just adding to an already pretty large deficit. So I thought I'll hold a worthy discussion, we'll debate it. I'm going to do my best. I mean, when I make decisions like this, I always try to make a list of pros and cons. So I'm going to try and list out the pros and cons for each cut, kind of try to play that devil's advocate, and we'll kind of take it from there. First one on the list, and probably the one that most people are here for, is kind of like transit. Obviously, there's only 3 of us still on the council from when we implemented the program, Marty, Rose, and myself, and I know we were all very happy when we implemented it, that Yorkville was finally getting some public transportation. I think everyone agrees it's a vital service and it improves the quality of life of people who need it the most. I don't think anyone really wants to see it go away. Now, on the flip side, it is a county-wide program, so the question is, should it be funded entirely by the county? I mean, I think kind of like KenCom, as Yorkville residents, we're paying for it twice. We're paying for it as Yorkville residents and county residents. Now, if we stop paying for Yorkville residents, I mean, we're still going to be paying as county residents, so do they cut us off? And I hear arguments about it competes with private business. Now, I guess a big question out there, should every taxpayer in Yorkville be subsidizing this service? If they do have a budget shortfall, they can always raise their rates, I would think, for their local match and become a little more self-sufficient. That's a question on the table. I mean, should all taxpayers in Yorkville subsidize this bus service? I'll open it up. We don't need to put anyone on the spot tonight. I mean, we can debate it, think about it for 2 weeks, come back and make decisions. I mean, we still have at least, 3 meetings before we have to approve the budget. So right now, let's throw it around and see what people think. Yes, ma'am.
I
How do I know you would be first?
I always join in. I would not support cutting the CAP program in any way. I also was, during the infant stages, planning with various municipalities, state legislators, as well as we traveled out to DeKalb to check the services, and it seemed like such a great thing for our community. The argument could be that not that many people use it, but the people that use it, again, we have to compare wants with needs. And these people, this is needed for them. For many people, it's needed for young people who need transportation to go to work. It's needed for special needs people. It's needed for many people who cannot drive. I also got a phone call from an individual who just moved here in December, and she was riding the bus, and they passed out, I guess, a sheet indicating that they may be cutting the program. Yorkville may not be supporting the program. And she said she thinks if that's the case, she's going to have to move. And she just moved here in December thinking Yorkville was such a fabulous place. But where she moved from did have public transportation. So she said she tried, she took a cab to work, and she said she certainly can't afford a cab. She even asked them if they could give her special rates for her daily travel to work back and forth, and of course they said no. And this is one lady, and her child also uses the service to go to work. So, we're scaring her out of our community, and I don't think we want to do that. And there's many other people that really rely on this service. And also, Oswego just signed on. At first, they didn't want to be a part of it, and then I think they realized their community, how beneficial it is, whether it's for 2% of the community or 80% of the community, but it is a need, and I certainly will not support cutting it from our budget.
Anyone else? Dave?
Yeah, I don't support cutting it from the budget either. I talked to the same lady that you did. It's definitely something that people need, and I agree with Rose. I think that this is something that I'm going to vote to keep in the budget.
Anyone else? Carla?
Well, I'm glad that it was brought to the forefront for discussion, as the mayor said earlier. The reason I'm going to support keeping it is because I do have faith in our new county board. We have a new county board that's come around, and if it was the old board, I don't know if I would vote to keep it, to be honest with you. I think it brought to the forefront, once again, the problems that we've had with the county in the past, and I think they are improving, our relationship with the county is improving. But once again, it's another program where the residents of the county are paying twice. Oswego residents, Yorkville residents, we pay in our tax bill to the county, and then we pay in our tax bill to the city, and both of those entities pay into CAP. If you're a county resident, you're only paying your portion to the county, and you still get the same service with CAP. I don't agree with that, and I think it's inequitable. However, for the reasons that Rose said, I think that obviously cutting CAP cuts the most vulnerable in our community, and I don't think that's the right way to get back at the county or make my point or stand on. This is not the hill I want to die on. So I will not vote for a budget that cuts CAP, simply put. And I think that our discussions with the county board, I see two of our county board members here today, are progressing, and we need to take care of issues like this in the future. So I will not vote for any budget that cuts CAP services to Yorkville.
Anyone else? Yes. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, I agree with Rose and Carl and Dan said it's a tough thing until you get all the calls about how it's really used. Unfortunately, I don't need a bus, so I don't really pay attention to how many riders are going. But the few, even if it is a small percentage that really need it, talking to some people. And my mom lives over countryside, and she's telling me stories about people herself that use it occasionally. And when you need it, it's really important to you. And I was thinking too, seniors probably use it more than anybody, and they're paying taxes to the schools, and they don't have kids in school anymore. So it's kind of, to me, a little trade-off, right? Paying for 40 years for kids have been gone. So a little $22,000 contribution to CAP, I agree.
There's already enough people to put it back in the budget. You want to keep talking about it or just throw it back in the budget? Yes, sir.
I'd like to, I agree with everyone here. I see the bus every morning going to Heritage Woods, Garden Circle. It makes that pass. It might not be regular for a lot of people, but it's regular in my neighborhood. And anyone who would think of cutting it, I think you should go to the Beecher Center, Senior Services there, and talk to those people. You'll get out a good wake.
I agree. I think we should continue to participate. I think it's too important of an issue to gamble that if we pull out that the county's going to still pick up Yorkville residents. And like it's been said here, people that are using it use it because they need it. It's a quality of life issue for a lot of residents, and I think we should continue to participate in the program.
Clearly, CAT's not going away. It's a benefit to the community. It is utilized. It's a very small component, but we will look to the county to rework the structuring for funding of this element that we have for our community. And don't for a second think that we won't be coming and asking to reevaluate this so it's a more, as Carl said, an equitable system for us all.
I wonder if it kind of follows what Martin from Council just said. Maybe there's some process with the county where, okay, the city, I understand you need that, the city's dollars for the grant. Maybe there's like a rebate from the county that offsets the city dollars. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe it's something to look into.
Okay, well, in any case, put it back in. Okay. Next, leaf pickup. No, it's on the top. Leaf pickup. Not a big budget item. We're talking maybe $6,000 to $10,000. Plus, if we got rid of it, we can get rid of the equipment, which would bring in a little more revenue. On the pro side, obviously, it's a convenience to our residents, especially in the older parts of the city. It is an alternative to burning leaves, but now that the state passed our ban on leaf burning, we can burn leaves if we wanted to anyway. But on the flip side, this is a redundant service that most citizens don't use, except for the probably countryside and over town. Our refuge contractor picks leaves up for free, and people will have to bag them instead of just putting them in the street, but they do pick them up for free. Always a source of complaints, either the leaves fell too early or too late. I always have complaints on it. It creates a mess in the streets, clogs storm drains. The equipment, I mean, the guys are always working on it every year. The equipment's a hassle to maintain. Now, if you think about it, the costs for this program are only going to escalate. And right now, we have a lot of young subdivisions with little trees, and we keep picking up leaves. I mean, 8-10 years from now, you're going to be looking at picking up leaves in the whole city. And then you're looking at buying another vacuum truck, and instead of taking 2 weeks out of the year for these guys, it's going to take 2 crews 2 weeks, or a month out of the year, just to pick up leaves. So, I mean, that's kind of a lot more cons on that than the pros, the way I see it. But yes, sir.
Well, of course, I represent the old part of town, and I'm hearing from our residents, they use it, and they like it. And I think the benefit to our residents far outweighs the minimum cost savings we're going to realize with this. And the other thing, one of the residents contacted me, mentioned he's got a very large yard, and we're talking probably 50 or 70 bags purchased to get rid of his leaves. And if we remember now, we used to allow burning in this town, and we got rid of it for obvious reasons, and I never want to go back to that. But one of the reasons we were able to get rid of it, we offered an alternative. That was putting the leaves out, we would pick them up. So I fully favor keeping this. I think it's a great benefit especially for the older parts of town.
Yes, ma'am.
I also did receive several emails and phone calls from residents of Countryside. And actually, one gentleman is 79 years old, and he said there's no way he can go out there and bag the leaves. He and his wife just are physically not able to do it. So he said it was kind of a threat that he would just pour gasoline on them, set them on fire, because that is one thing that they shouldn't take away from our community. We've already paid for the equipment is paid for, and trading it in, I don't think you'd get very much for it. And I know it's man hours expended picking up the leaves, and I do understand that, but I won't support this either.
Yes, great.
I'm on their bandwagon, I wouldn't support it either. I represent, I would cut the older part. I know I use it, I wouldn't want to bag all the leaves I have on my property, and so your area is full of big trees, and I know we have, it's $6,000. I think there's other things that we could cut that are.
Right now, it's $6,000.
Right, I know, but I think that we can address it as it goes
But
on.
when you have to picking up grain reserve and rain tree and I mean, the program's going to exponentially run up in costs. But
how many years off is
if I were to work two aldermen, I wouldn't support it either. And I don't want to work two aldermen. I remember I proposed this a while back and.
You were two aldermen.
Yeah, look, Mr. Alderman, I need two things from the city. I need police protection and my leaves picked up.
Well, and if we take it away, are we going to get people sneaking and burning them then?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
My guy will.
Or are you going to have people putting them out there and sitting in the street and they're not going to get picked up? So I don't support that either.
I agree. This is the first year I lived in the first year that I actually raked my leaves, and it was a lot of leaves, and it would have been about 50 or 60 bags to put them all. And it was so wonderful to have them picked up, and I think that $6,000, and I understand what you're saying, later it's going to cost more, but
Now the mulching, remember one. Remember the mulcher. Yes, sir.
Well, I personally think that we're going to spend more than $6,000 in man hours for police complaints for burnt leaves and for public works going out, for sewer grates being backed up with leaves, the viaducts under driveways in people's homes. I know I have one, it always gets filled up with leaves, I clear it out. If it was a very expensive program, I absolutely agree that it's an inefficient program from the point of, we have to schedule it for staff when this is going to happen. For some areas of the city, it's too early. The leaves are still on the trees, and we're going around picking up leaves. For some areas of the city, it's too late. The leaves have not only been raked, but they've been blown, and they've been scattered all over the neighborhood, and by the time the vacuum comes up, it's a problem. So it is an inefficient program, but for the cost, I think, as far as man hours, we're going to be wasting more police calls and more public work calls for sewer grates if we eliminate the program.
Yes, sir.
This program is a slightly inequitable, as we've already said. You have a service that's free if you're using the pickup service, and then throughout the year you got a pay-per-use service. I don't have an issue if we keep it. It's low cost now, but yes, it will become a much bigger issue. The newer subdivisions, pretty much all of them will use the bag system right now, but as the trees mature, it's going to be more of a task for those residents to bag those leaves as it is in the older neighborhoods as it is. So this is something that's going to create more of a burden on the city as people are going to stop using the pay-per-use service for the small trees as they grow. They're going to start using more of the city-funded service, taxpayers' dollars, to pick up their leaves. They're just going to start putting them out there. So we will quickly see this growing in our costs. So something to keep in mind. It's not going to get cut from this budget, but it will be something that is going to be watched and looked at because it will be very expensive.
I'll tell you, right now, there's a small population that uses it. Wait until the whole city uses it and try to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Has staff looked at someplace else that might want the leaves that is cheaper? Some farmer that may want it for composting?
That's what we do now.
And we have to pay $6,000 and they're getting a benefit of our wonderful Yorkville leaves for fertilizer?
That's just a dummy cost. So the 6,000 does not even cost from fuel.
Okay, and then the other thing, Bart, you emailed me, I didn't understand, we were willing to get rid of the leaf, but we're okay with the brush pickup.
Brush pickup's every other month. 1 week out of every other month, and it doesn't take us a full week.
And it's cheaper to dump that?
Yes, by far.
Our garbage hauler won't pick up
Right.
brush, they'll pick up the leaves.
They will pick up brush at a very limited scale. It has to be 4 foot long or smaller, and long into less than 50-pound buckets. And that's also free every week for me.
Okay, moving on that, looks like you're picking up leaves next year.
Not a problem.
All right, that's a very controversial subject, and that is senior garbage subsidy. Now, this is probably the biggest one out of all the cuts that were proposed, because we spent about $150,000 a year on the garbage subsidy. And this is a nice benefit for our seniors, and it's nice to reward seniors. Many are on fixed incomes. I do hear that seniors don't generate much garbage or a bag a week or something. Unfortunately, our hauler doesn't charge us on volume, it charges by the account. And I guess at one time, everyone in the city was subsidized. I mean, when I first moved to the city, all garbage was free. Subsidy was eliminated for everyone except the seniors. In fact, at the time, I voted to keep the senior rate at 50 cents a month, and it still is. Unfortunately, I mean, it's tough to justify in these times, and the city can't really afford it any longer. I know Bill Powell said over the years, many years, that there's many seniors out there that don't need the subsidy. I mean, there's many seniors out there that live in probably nicer homes than anyone on this council and make more money. And here we are, we're all subsidizing their garbage pickup. So, I mean, I don't know how fair it is. And if you're going to subsidize seniors, why not another class that is just as worthy? Why don't we subsidize veterans? You know, maybe firefighters, police, single moms, I don't know. Why just seniors? But I think it'd be more fair and equitable, since we're talking about being equitable, when we went on a needs-based system. We talked about, in the past years, about the circuit breaker program, senior services administrates that program, and they can easily confirm if someone's on the circuit breaker program. The limits on that is $27,000 for an individual, $36,000 for a couple. I mean, staff and I are both proposing that if people make more than or less than the circuit breaker, they get some sort of discount, whether it's 50% or whatever it is. But I think Yorkville's a real anomaly in giving seniors 50 cents a month garbage pickup. I can see some sort of senior discount, 50% across the board or something, but well, on the flip side too, there's some abuse out there. I know of families where whole households, I mean, they put the accountant in grandma's name so they get, 50-cent trash pickup. So I think we need to really look at the program. This is a big ticket item, $150,000 a year, so just throwing it out there and see what everyone thinks. Yes.
I actually, because I was going to say that our former treasurer brought this to our attention 2 years ago, and I thought it was a good idea then to do, on a needs-based, the circuit breaker was a good idea, whether or not it's 50% or 100% or, however much they pay now if they're on circuit breaker. I don't have a problem with that, but I think it should be based on need, because they don't generate a lot of garbage. So that is one reason why, maybe it would be more equitable if we could do it that way.
Yes, sir.
Well, I agree that, saying seniors, painting all seniors with the same brush is ridiculous. I mean, you have seniors who have $200,000 pensions living very comfortably, and you have seniors in Social Security who can barely pay their water bill. I agree with a tiered system. I don't agree with a two-tier system. I actually feel much more comfortable with a three-tier system. And I know it's, obviously more work. I think that to have this cutoff of $27,000 a year, and you go from maybe $1 to the full 100% just because you make $28,000 a year, that's still going to affect a lot of our seniors. So I would prefer to see a program that is limited to seniors. It has 3 tiers, with the lower tier below the circuit breaker still keeping their 50 cents a month, with tier 2 being 27 to whatever this council deems equitable. We can maybe run some numbers to see how many seniors would qualify under each section. to maybe a reduced fee of 50%, and then above a comfortable number that we set, you pay 100% just like everybody else, because you have the ability to do so. So I would personally feel much more comfortable with 3 tiers, because I don't think it's realistic to say, well, if you make 27.5 or 28, you're now in the category of everybody else as a senior, you can afford to pay 100%. I think that's too much of a jump.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like to see a cost analysis with the tier system. Because the need base is the way to go with this. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind there's people, they need the subsidy. And to pull it out from them, even if we do it over a couple of years, I don't think is fair. I'd much rather see us come up with this tiered system. And, and those that can afford it, great, let them pay for it. That's fine, but I'd like to see some numbers on that if we can, just so we know what we're dealing with.
Anyone else?
You proposed having the people that are on the circuit breaker program. So how do we find out who's on the program? Are we going to ask the people that work for senior services that maintain the program?
I think that was the proposal.
Okay.
Just call them up and confirm with them if they are on circuit breaker or not.
Okay. And there are also, I think there's a lot of seniors that aren't aware of the circuit breaker program. So
we'd have to do an education campaign, just like the way that we advertised for the senior shelter. We'd have to advertise it.
And I just want to state that seniors are paying just school taxes again. They were paying for the rec center. They were paying, and some did use it. They're paying various fees and programs, and they're getting no benefits whatsoever. Leaf pickup, that's one. That's good. They like that. But to take it away from the, and I do agree there are seniors out there that have $200,000 pensions, and I don't think that they should be a part of the program. But if we can find out who actually needs this, I would then support it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do not have a problem supporting a senior discount, whether it's 15, 20%, but a senior discount in general, but then having a substantial discount for those who qualify for a need, and that's what we need to establish is what is the need. And if circuit breaker is the way to go, we use that. But it provides us a basis for providing the discount, the subsidy for the program.
All right, so it sounds like we're going to direct staff to run some numbers, come back with some different scenarios, numbers, different plans. We got a 3-tiered system, 2-tiered system.
Can I add just one more thing? The state and the federal government are cutting a lot of programs for the seniors. They're cutting Medicaid, Medicare, various programs for their prescriptions. So a lot of seniors in our community can't afford to pay, and I think that it is very important that we do verify which ones really can't afford it.
I was known to listen to Alderman Calismo's 3-tier system. I also can see where Alderman Spears is coming from. These people paid all their lives, they raised their kids and, they went from there and they didn't get no benefits for some of the stuff. So I think you have to be really careful about how we decide on how we're going to do this then, because that's going to be one of my interests.
I was just going to say, the concern about getting everyone to be aware of this, I mean, could we just put it on the water bill that, there's going to be a new procedure, because they all get a water bill.
Sure.
So, I mean, that would just be a way of letting them know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think as far as from an administration point of view, the only real way to administer a program like this with 3 tiers would be that when we come out of the gate, everybody's at the top tier. Everybody pays the full rate. And then you have to come to City Hall and provide the verification so we can drop you to the 2nd tier or drop you to the 1st tier. That way it puts the responsibility on the homeowner who's going to get and you don't have to do that obviously every month. I'm going to pay my water bill again, here's my verification. Once you're verified, you obviously are going to stay in your tier. But I think realistically with a city of 17,000, the only way that we can verify this information is by you coming to us. We can't come to you. So when we set the program, everybody goes to the high tier, and then as you come in, you get credited down to the low tier. And administratively, that's really the only way we can do it.
There's a big question is how do you verify income if you have a three-tier system? That's what we're talking about. People are going to want to come in with their tax returns, and I don't think we want staff doing it. I don't know, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll come up with something.
We'll figure it out.
Yes, sir.
One other item too would be, we're going to be, in the next agenda item, probably going to be asking for this other kit from the seniors too, so we should keep that in mind.
Which?
What the water and the sewer.
No. So that's after the next controversial item. All right, I think, yes, ma'am.
Just want to question, and I don't, in Kendall County, is there a senior exemption on the real estate taxes?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
There is.
All right, so next meeting, we'll come back with some proposals. Okay. All right, we'll revisit this next meeting. Next, library. The library wants more money above and beyond their tax levy. We have a very, very nice library, used by a lot of people. We want to make sure we continue to have a very nice library. There is some concerns about giving them more money above and beyond their tax levy. It doesn't set a bad precedent. And what happens next year when they say that their tax levy isn't enough to operate on? I mean, is this council going to be prepared to give them money again next year above and beyond their tax levy? Or should they live within what they generate in taxes? I've had a couple of emails saying that the library is overstaffed. I'm not a frequent visitor. I know my wife and kids use it quite a bit, so I really can't speak to it. But I did look at their numbers. I looked at their payroll numbers. And granted, numbers don't tell the whole story, but I did find out some facts that I wasn't aware of. You know, I didn't know that there's 8 to 10 people working at that library during the day when kids are in school. I don't know how many people it takes to run the library. Is 8 or 10 too many? I don't know. But they had 5 full-time staff and 21 part-timers. That basically equates to over 12 full-time employee equivalents to run the library. And if you think about it, I mean, no city department has that many employees except PD. I mean, they are second in employees in the city behind the PD. It just seems like a lot of employees. And then they talk about staff cuts and everything else, but if you look at their salary over the years, in 2009, the line item for salaries was $428,000, and now they're up to $440,000. You know, so I see salaries going up since 2009. And, you know, not only that, I get a lot of feedback from the staff how during the lean times of 2009, 10, 11, when the city had a wage freeze, our employees weren't getting raises. Library employees were still getting raises during those years. So there's a source of a lot of contention between employees. I know the library director was on the front page of the Beacon talking about how the floors are dirty, their windows need cleaning. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, what's going on? I mean, I'm going to close down City Hall for a day and take all our employees and go over and wash windows, you know? But then I'm looking, I mean, they have 3 part-time custodians, and they all work every day, about 12 hours a day, between the 3 of them. Comes out to 56 hours a week for custodial work they have. And you add that up, and it's about over $53,000 a year they spend on custodial services. I mean, you look at and compare that to city buildings. I mean, we have a guy who comes in at the City Hall and the PD, but that's it. They put in about 14, 15 hours a week, and it costs a little over $14,000. And that's what we pay for every city building in the city. That's rec center, that's public works, every building, custodial, we pay $14,000. I mean, compared to their $53,000. So I guess what I'm throwing out there is they're asking for $21,000. And I don't know, maybe all these numbers are justified. Maybe it takes that many people to run a library. I do not know. I've never run a library. So, I mean, if they weren't asking for more money than what their tax levy allows, it wouldn't be a concern. I would want it. But, I don't know, I hate to use the analogy of my kids, but I give my kid $10 to go out and do something. He comes back and says, hey, I need $5 more. I'm like, what did you do with the 10 I just gave you? You know, so, I mean, when they're asking for more money from us, we have to ask the question, are they being good stewards with the tax money that they have? I mean, will giving them more money really solve the problem there? Or is there a problem with how they allocate the resources they have? I don't know, I'm throwing it out there. You know, maybe they need to justify the money a little bit more. But I'll throw it out there, and I'm my library board liaison, I won't be the first to.
Well, first, as the library board liaison, I'd like to say you're not making my job very easy on Mondays when I go to the library board meetings. We had a library board meeting yesterday, and these very issues came up with the library board. And they had some valid arguments for the exact things that you just pointed out about staffing, things of that level. For example, one of the things they pointed out is that they, through the interlibrary loan program, they process 4,000 books a month. That's books going out and books coming in. 4,000 books a month is a lot of books that are being processed through the interlibrary loan program. So they gave me a lot of numbers and statistics as far as why the staffing levels are the way they are. The 21 part-time employees, many of their part-time employees only work 4 or 5 hours a week. These are not all 21 that work 20 hours a week as part-time employees. Some of them work 1 day a week for 4 hours and they count as a part-time employee. So it's not as numerous as you think. So what I requested for them to do is I explained to them that this would be discussed and there would be a budget process. And they stated they were going to put a letter together, just exactly what you said, kind of explaining their position as to why the staffing levels are at that level, statistics about how many patrons come in per day, interlibrary loans that need to be processed, things of that nature. And they're going to present the letter to the mayor and the aldermen, so we can each review that and ask questions and make your own decision as to whether you want to give them the extra $21,000. Now, as the liaison, I've been to every meeting but maybe 1 or 2 that I've missed throughout the last 2 years. And I can tell you that they do take their budget very seriously. When they go through their budget, they are very mindful. They are very conservative with their budget. So when they propose their letter to us, I would ask each of you to give it some serious consideration, because we do not have a library board that just haphazardly spends money and likes to throw money out the window. So I would ask that you give them their due consideration.
I agree 100%. I surely don't want to apply anything other than that. But I mean, we have to ask questions.
I
mean, if I was looking at the popularity contest, believe me, I don't ever check the 21 grand and this wouldn't even see what I pay. You know, but.
And I agree with you, Mayor. One of the things that they said was, one of the library board members didn't feel that they needed to justify that they thought that, they're doing a good job. And I respectfully disagreed with them and told them why I respectfully disagree. If you're asking for more money, you do have to justify it. And that's what kind of prompted them putting together some sort of letter that will explain their position to us. So.
Yes, sir.
I look forward to seeing that letter from them to explain that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they asked for more than their levy last year, too, correct?
They did not ask us for any more money than their levy. So they had levied, I think, under the maximum last year. So you get into the conversation of we're allowed as a municipality to apply the limiting rate to their tax cap calculations, which produces one value, and then they were somewhere else here, and the hard cap of 15 cents is up here. So they were in between their hard cap and what we could cap them at, so it was a negotiated rate.
But they are asking for $20,000 more. Staffing raises, those kind of things. It is something to be discussed, so I'll look forward to seeing that letter before we make a decision on this one in terms of allowing an increase.
My concern is, again, next year, are they going to be short on their budget again? Are they going to come back for more money next year because they didn't get enough from their levy. And then what about, I mean, I know last year we unencumbered like $320,000 from them. We have it in our capital fund now to fix the Game Farm Road driveway, the road in front of their driveway. And that money was tied up. It was meant for a specific purpose. We actually gave them $320,000 out of our general fund, and they put it into their fund. And it was supposed to be used for specific purposes, but it is unencumbered. They can use it for things that they need to. And I'm just wondering, is that just going to sit there? What are they going to use that for? And I mean, that's their money. They can do with it what they want to now because it is unencumbered. We have it in our capital fund. So I don't know what they're doing with that money.
That money just sits in their fund balance.
And their fund balance right now is about 37%. I mean, after proposal next year is to raise their fund balance to 51 or 52%. So in essence, you can say the 21 grand we're giving them is a cushion to their fund balance.
I mean, you know, and I know they want to use it to paint and to put new carpet in and that sort of thing, but if they have that sitting in their fund balance, wouldn't that be the first place that you would go to? I would think that would be the first place, and then work on your budget for next year to get it under the levy so you can keep that fund balance where you want it to be so you can get those other things done.
Just one elaboration too. The point of what's going to happen to their tax levy next year is a good question. You know, they're at 0.15 per $100 EAV right now, which is the hard cap under state statute. EAVs will go down again next year on aggregate because of the 3-year rolling average of property values, probably for the next 2 or 3 years. So, you know, they're going to be faced with, in my estimation, a decreased property tax levy for the next 2 or 3 years,
So,
until property values start to go up again.
So are they going to come to us again next year and say we're short on our budget?
Right. Well, that's what I can't answer. That's their own individual, you know, year's policy decisions. If we tell them no this year, they may go back and cut things out of their budget or raise other fees to balance their own budget. They may not. They may say we want to keep everything as we had planned it last year, and they're going to ask us for more money because the levy goes down.
I mean, I think the library is worthwhile. I think it should be funded. But I also think that, you know, we as a city are looking at deficits in our budget coming up. And I just don't understand, you know, I think that if they have a fund balance, that's where that should come from at this point.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I love our library, and I think it's worthwhile in our community, but when you tell me that everybody's cut and they haven't, I have a problem with that. And looking if down the line that, as Bart said, this could be harder every year, well then it's time for them to tighten their belts too. So I'm kind of torn. Carla, you said it, just for a point, I just did some math, you said it's 4,000 books a month. That's in a 30-month day, that's 133 books a day. That's 16 books an hour in an 8-hour day, and they have how many people on? Did you say, Gary, on an average day?
8 to 10.
Okay, so it's a book a person, an hour. Throw the math out there. I mean, I love them, I think it's a worthwhile, I think we need it, but, you know, if we've cut, you know, the police force is cut, everybody's cut, it's time for them to help us just a little bit.
Give me really big bucks.
The comment was made that their fund balance is at 37%, and they just approved 50% fund balance. Is that?
After this budget, correct me if I'm wrong, Bart, I mean, in the proposed budget, their fund balance is going to go up to 51 or 52%?
At the end of fiscal year 13, our projections and their projections are that they'll run a $11,000 surplus this year and then end up with 51% fund balance.
So we're getting 21 grand and they're going to run an $11,000 surplus and it's actually in their fund balance?
The $11,000 surplus is through April 30th of 2013. So the $21,000 would go into fiscal year 14, which would be next year.
Instead of going to their 50% projection.
Yeah, could make it better. Yeah.
Assuming that they're not taking a substantial hit on the EAVs, but still, that's 37% to 50% in a year is a pretty dramatic change in the fund balance.
So Carl, maybe you can tell me, they're not open on Sundays, right?
No, they are not.
And what time do they close on Saturdays, do you know?
I can look at it. My wife would know, I'll tell you that.
Is it, I mean, is it,
At 4 o'clock on Saturdays.
4 o'clock.
Yeah, it's an earlier closing.
and the other concern or question I have on the school district, they're putting together this new project of theirs, it's some type of library funding thing, right, or some kind of center?
I'm not
Does anyone know?
Yes, they are proposing a learning research center that will be open to the community, even on weekends. And yeah, that's part of our first phase expansion.
That's in the first phase?
Yes. They bring up a good point, because another complaint I hear is about the Sundays thing. That's when people need them the most is Sundays. I have people who told me they pay, live in Yorkville, go out of district fees to go to Sugar Grove, they don't get there on Sundays, and that's when they need it. And I think Sugar Grove gets it. They're closed all day on Friday, open on Sunday. And the kids need it most.
Well, I was actually thinking the same thing, is I don't know how many kids go there during the day. I'm sure there's, several kids that, are homeschooled or that, their parents take them because they're not in school yet. But it would seem like if they could be open later in the afternoon when all the other kids get out of school until, that's their policy decision to do, but there's other alternatives to hours, because I do hear a lot of complaints about it not being open on Sundays. But that's their decision.
Getting back to their tax levy, did the city not meet with them and negotiate and ask them to lower their levy, the last budget?
For the last
Couple.
3 years, yeah.
So we did ask them to lower it.
We did, and then again, that gets us into the point where the amount that we negotiated with them, lower than their maximum by state law, but it's higher than what we could have given them if we would have applied it construction to CPI. So.
Can I just clarify, you said they're going to go into the next budget year with a surplus? A small surplus?
They're going to finish this current fiscal year with a surplus.
With a surplus.
Which is what she said, no one into next year with the surplus.
Does that roll over to next
Right.
year? They'll have it for next year.
Well, and I think until just a few years ago, the library budget was kind of screwy. Each year, they would take their fund balance and apply it as revenue in next year's budget. So there's never a really running tally of what the library spent. How long was that practice? When did that practice cease?
It was up until 2 or 3 years ago. So, and as a result of that, there were some years that they ended with an unexpected surplus, and other years where they spent down their fund balance. So it was all over the board. It's just, it was hard to budget. It was hard to plan that type of scenario.
All right, anything else on library? Like Carol said, they're going to get back to us with some information. We'll move forward.
Is there a way when they give us their information, I don't know, Carol, are they going to do like a year comparison? Did they say what they're going to do?
I don't know
Like a
if somebody's
last
going to
3
put something
years?
together for us to review, how they're going to format it, or...
I think it would be interesting if they could show us if there's an increase of circulation, or are we holding steady at our 4,000 books a month, or, I'm just curious.
Okay, so we'd like to hear more on that one then. All right, next controversial item. Road infrastructure fee, $8 a month. We'll get this one out of the way tonight. After various I tried making a list of pros and cons. Couldn't come up with what's on this one. How are we get our roads done? It stinks. There's nothing we can do about it that stinks. We do have a plan in place to start addressing our infrastructure, our roads in particular. And now we need money to do it. Road fee will help raise about $1 million annually, which will go to nothing but roads. And honestly, that's only half the amount that's recommended by our road study or engineering firm, just to keep our roads at the rating they are right now. The thing is, if we don't start spending money on roads right now, over the years it's just going to multiply. The cost is never going to go down, it's going to increase exponentially. And now, after the last public works meeting, we now have a good handle on what we have in the way of sewer and water lines that are going to be replaced too. So it's millions more added into our roads by roads program. I guess if there is a silver lining, it is less than what was proposed to go into effect last year. Last year, we're talking about raising it to $16.50 as opposed to $16. So this new road fee would be $8 per month per user. The current sewer and water fees, which are both at $8, would be reduced to $4 each. But if you think about it, it's still less than we saved residents last year. I mean, in electrical aggregation alone, we saved residents on average about $30. When we rebid the garbage contract, we saved about $4. So if you look at it, Bart has some graphs and numbers to really show the utility bills. And what we rank in all the other local communities. But the thing is, without this fee, guys, I mean, we're just kicking the can down the road. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think this issue is one that we can no longer sweep under the carpet as far as these roads are concerned. I mean, the roads need to be repaired. We don't have a choice anymore. The roads need to be repaired. I think that's a net offset, a net reduction of 50 cents a month. I think that it's a good way that staff thought of structuring it. I think there's been a lot of miscommunication out there about, raising fees and things of that nature. I think it's better described as a shifting the fee. $8 goes from water to the roads, and the water gets reduced by the corresponding $8. So it's actually a net 50-cent reduction per billing cycle. It's not an increase of $8, and I think it's desperately needed. The number one complaint I get in Ward 1 is roads. Look at these roads, look at these roads. And I agree. When I go walking with my kids and they're on their bikes, there's potholes that could swallow their bicycles. And that's just not from neglect, or that's just from age. And every year it's easy to say, we'll take care of the roads next year, we'll take care of the roads next year. Well, next year is here. So I think that the staff should be commended for coming up with a system of, reducing the water fees, shifting the $8 over to the cars. I mean, would it be nice to reduce the water fees and leave it at that? Sure. I mean, who wouldn't want that? But the roads need to be done. So I fully support the $8 fee shifting over from water, and I hope we can get a good impact starter. We're going from $50,000 a year for cold patch, which pretty much covers half a mile on one road, to $1 million a year program to really start making an impact on these roads, and it needs to be done.
But just for clarification, and that is part of the misconception, the way we're doing it is a little confusing. It is a net increase.
How is that?
Because right now we're paying $8.25 a month for sewer and for water, which is $16.50 per billing cycle.
Right.
Okay? We are reducing both of those to $4 each, so it'll be $8 per billing cycle.
Right.
And we're adding $8 on top of that.
Right.
So
So
it's $16 per month, not billing cycle, correct?
Currently, you're paying $8.25 per billing per month for water infrastructure.
Right.
There's no sewer infrastructure fee, there's no road infrastructure fee.
So it's $16.50 per billing cycle.
Correct. So next year, we would propose to have, per billing cycle, we'll keep it apples to apples, $8 for water, $8 for sewer, and then $16 for a road infrastructure fee.
Okay.
So it's a net increase, and this is what I tried to illustrate on this chart here. From what you're paying right now to next year, yeah, there's a net increase of like $8 per month. Okay. But last year, we knew that we were going to have to implement this. This year, we had told everybody it's going to go up $8.25 a month. So we're increasing it less than we had planned. And the mayor's point about, the electric aggregation, the garbage costs, they're all included in this chart here. If you just add up the road infrastructure fee, the sewer infrastructure fee, the water infrastructure fee, garbage costs, and then what we've saved residents with electric aggregation, the blue line represents last year at this time where we thought we were going to be for prices, and the red represents where we are now. So the residents are still a lot better off than they were last year as far as overall utility costs, but we are proposing a slight increase from 2012 to 2013. But the savings is still $26 a month. That's because of the electric aggregation and the reference rates. So if you flip it back over to the other side, it does illustrate that year to year. Hopefully, the column title at the top explains it. So it's less of an increase than we thought it was going to be last year. So it is a reduction over, what we had set in stone by adopting our budget last year. It's just, if you look at your utility bill from April 2013 to May 2013, it is going to go up from a minimum perspective, $8 per month. So, and that's after going down $4 last year. So.
And I guess I'm confused because at the last city council meeting when I brought it up, it was represented as a 50-cent per month reduction. And unfortunately, I have been giving false information to our residents when they call me, and I relayed that it would be a 50-cent per month reduction as I was told at the meeting. And so that's kind of irritating to say the least.
It's a 50-cent reduction from what you had adopted last year in last year's budget. So the statement isn't entirely incorrect.
No, it is incorrect.
Okay.
It is incorrect. All right. I'll send out an email and update everybody with the correct figures then.
No, I've heard that several times, that it's a 50-cent reduction, and it's not.
But that's why I specifically asked 2 weeks ago. And if we go back, I was specifically told it's a net 50-cent reduction per month.
Over what was proposed to take effect this year.
See, that's why residents don't like politicians, because it's all double talk. I asked a simple question, and I just wanted a simple answer, and now there's this double talk.
No, it's
And that's what frustrates me.
It's difficult to respond. Jakey?
Well, I support this. I know I hate to anybody, the bill will go up. But 2 years ago when I was running, that's like the number one thing. When are you going to fix the roads? When are you going to fix the roads? And if you look at this, you're saying it's $8 a month. Am I correct in saying it's $8 a month? That we will see an increase on our utility bills. So our net of 16. That's like one trip to McDonald's a month. Give it up. You're going to get a good road to go to McDonald's next time. So I'm all for it. I'm glad that we're doing something. I'm glad we're moving ahead and get our roads fixed.
And just for clarification, I'm still going to support it. I am still going to support it because I stand on what I previously said. We don't have a choice anymore. We can no longer sweep the roads under the rug anymore. So I'm still going to support it. And I understand at this point now it's an $8 hit. For future, I just want, when we ask simple questions, that we get simple, straightforward answers, even if they're not the most popular answer, it's not what we want to hear. Because when I go back and then I relay information to the residents and it's wrong, it's not fair to the residents. So I'm still going to support it. I understand we got to take the $8 hit, but I just really ask that we're clear and concise in the future.
Yeah, I don't think there's any motive to this thing. I just think the way it was presented was a little confusing, unclear. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what I was saying too, if people look at their whole bill and they see like what the average bill is in town, but I get a bill every 2 months for $160. And I don't sit there and look at all these little things. I'm sure most people don't go down their bill and look, oh, this is $3, this is $10. It's $160 for 2 months. So if you look at that, it's not too bad, but if it goes up again, I mean, that's like one of the biggest bills you get. It's bigger than my electric bill.
It is.
I mean, it includes some things, but again, nobody looks at those little lines.
It is.
Which brings you to the other graphs here, because if you look at our utility bills, if you were to take YBSD out of our utility bills, we're one of the lowest in the areas. I mean, YBSD is what's killing these bills. You know, I mean, if you want to really shine some light on the YBSD, take them off our utility bill. Let them direct bill. I know we just talked about renewing the billing agreement, but take that off our bill, our utility bills look sweet.
It's what it is, because they sit on a lot of cash.
And don't hold cash.
Yeah, they sit on cash, and we're struggling every month, so I think it's good.
And by that would be on our utility bill, just to flex anything. No one knows who YBSD is. Like our city saying, why is our bill so high?
They need water.
Is this available on PDF?
It is. I'll email it out.
Thank you.
So, if I can just make one point about the combined billing, they do contribute $125,000, $130,000 per year to us. So, under the 5% agreement, if we were to approve it, we'd be getting maybe $145,000, $150,000 next year. So, it costs us between staff time and everything, between $200,000 to $300,000 to do the billing. So we would be losing that revenue if we were to let them do it themselves, and then it would actually cost the YPSD organizations.
But Bart, we'd still have to do the building.
We'd still have to do our water bill.
We'd still
Right.
be doing the building. So even if you lost them, we still have to do the building.
And we lose their revenue, so, yes.
And all the components.
Maybe.
Yes, sir.
Just a little clarification here. We're using a $1 million figure for our road project for the next fiscal year. That's not all coming from the new fee, correct? How much is that going to be?
We expect to generate about $670,000 from an $8 per month per user road infrastructure fee. So the other $330,000 would be coming from other funding sources in the citywide capital fund, the general fund towards fiscal year 17 and 18, from elsewhere.
I support this. I do it reluctantly because I do not like to raise fees. But I'd like to see us do a year from now, be sitting here, and I want a report that says this is what we accomplished with this program. So we can show the taxpayers where this money went. And I know there's some issues. At Public Works, we're talking, we got our road study, but you go through that road study and then you look at the additional costs that may be involved because you got infrastructure, you got water mains that need to be replaced. So we may be shuffling that around a little bit because what money we have in our other funds. So I think it's important that people know that that road study is a guide and that we may end up having to move that around a little bit.
Then it's definitely going to have to be debated a lot more at Public Works to see what the best way to proceed is, because obviously we're not going to tear up any roads and not do what's underneath it. That doesn't make sense. Mr. Keeling did her hand up for a long time.
I was just gonna say that I'm glad that we brought this came up because I think that it was presented a little confusing. I thought that it was this $8 fee was gonna replace the water infrastructure fee, the WINF fee on the water bill. This is gonna be in addition to that.
Can I help her? This is going to show another fee
Right.
for the sewer
Yeah, so it's in
infrastructure
addition to
fee
that.
come May 1st.
Right.
But that WINF fee or whatever we call it is going to be reduced.
Right. By 50 cents a month.
50%. So it's going to go from 8 to 4 down to 4.
Now, is that going to cause a problem because we had to implement that fee? And on that particular fee, we were going to do a sunset clause every year to make sure that we still needed it. Is that the one?
If you authorize it under the budget, we would ask you to draft a city code amendment to implement it. Obviously, we'd have to do that in May or June, and it can be drafted with a sunset clause, or it can be put
Wasn't
in
it on?
the water fee was, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that would stay in effect. That.
Yeah, you would have to reauthorize it next year by ordinance.
Okay,
Otherwise
so-
it would expire.
What you're saying is this fee right here is going to be reduced, 50%.
WINF fee, yes, we'll go from $16.50 on your bill there, so that's 2 months, down to $8.
$8. And then the new fee is going to be on this line, and that's going to be
$16.
$16. So it's going to be an increase of about $8.
About $8, right?
Okay. All right, just so I'm clear. It was confusing.
Yeah.
This follows with what Larry was just saying. I know the Public Works, I think the sewer stuff makes it, what we had in year one is $1 million more on top of the $1 million just to do the roads. Is that going to be too aggressive to do though at that rate? I mean, maybe you're better off to try to go to from 5 years to 7 years to get, because I know some streets that never even made this list in my ward that, I just think that, I wonder if it's a little aggressive, and that maybe you could keep the 8, instead of 8, you could go 4 or something, because it sounds like we got a long ways to go yet before we decide exactly what streets we're going to do, and maybe be half a year on this.
Yeah, it's possible. One of the things that the engineer is doing is analyzing how long it will take them to engineer all the sewer and water utilities below the roadway if we were to select certain roadways. So they're trying to tell us from a sewer and water perspective how much we can physically accomplish in a 5-year plan. So it's possible they may come back to me and say, it's not possible, it's going to take us a year just to engineer this water main replacement, and then that's going to adjust our schedule accordingly. So There's a possibility, we plan on discussing it next week in Public Works, that, we would either recalibrate the fee, or we would, change the timeline, or just change our budget amounts.
So then in the next year, can you go ahead and start collecting, let's say you made it $4 instead of the 8. And can you start building the pot,
Yes.
per se?
Yeah, I mean,
At that
the
rate,
way
instead
it's
of-
drafted is for water infrastructure payments, so that could be bond or project related. The sewer would be drafted the same way, and then the road is essentially a vehicle sticker, so it has to be used on roadway improvements, maintenance, or construction.
But you could build the pot, even if you didn't spend it in that, you don't have to spend it in that year, right?
Correct. Correct.
Anything else on the road fee? Okay, that's all the controversy I have for tonight. Open up to any other budget questions, issues, anything else we want to talk about the budget? Floor is open.
The question I had was about the TIF incentive over for the Kendall Crossing TIF. We committed to a $1.8 million payment out of the TIF. There's $1.2 million in the TIF, and we all agreed that we were immediately going to pay out the $1.2 million. I think we all agreed to that. We're getting the movie theater. It's going to be great. I don't have a problem with that. The question I have and the issue I have with these cuts, we're talking about a $30,000 cut to CAT, but then we're saying, well, we're just going to fast forward the $600,000 difference and just pay it all off in 2013. When in essence, those fees should be coming from the amusement tax once the theater is open to recapture it within the TIF to pay off the TIF. So why are we in such a hurry to put forward $600,000 in the 2013 budget that's not there when we're talking about making $6,000 cuts to the LEAF program? So I mean, that was a big gaping hole in the budget that I saw that we're trying to fill, in my opinion, probably a little too fast. I understand we have to pay it. I don't have a problem paying it, but why all of it in 2013? Or, I'm sorry, 2014.
Sure. The developer had requested about $1.8 million originally. The language of the agreement is exactly how you explained it. It's however much we have in the pot, and the amusement tax makes up the increment. So, knowing that we had the obligation, I figured, it would just be paid off sooner rather than later based on their request. So, it would require a development agreement amendment, obviously, and budget approval. So, it's something we proposed, and if you disagree with it, we'll take it out.
But I thought the agreement that we have with them is the $1.2 million, and the rest of the recapture comes through the tax. So if we decided to do it that way, let's say we decide we're going to pay $1.2 million, they're going to wait for their $600 as it comes in through the recapture on the amusement tax and the increment that goes up with the development of the property going up in value, and obviously the tax is going up. Why would there have to be an amendment to the agreement? Because I thought that was the agreement.
It was the agreement. They're requesting $1.8 million instead of the 1.2 that's going to be in there at the time of, eventual opening in November. So there's another bond payment in November or in December that would take it down to the 1.2 million. So, when they had originally approached us, they said that their magic number was 1.8. They had a much more aggressive construction schedule at the time. And so we proceeded under the impression that, when they would eventually open and disperse the money, that, it would be between 1.5 and 1.8 million dollars, and that's how it was approved. So, but, just given the delays, in construction, it could be 1.2 million. So they requested 1.8, and, so we threw it in there from a budget proposal perspective.
Well, because I think there's a huge hole in the budget, or a huge excess in the budget, that can be split over 2 years, two fiscal budgets. That gives us about $300,000 of relief in 2014, which would be, I think, much more reasonable considering the cuts we were proposing and the fact that it doesn't all have to be paid immediately, especially because of the delays, as you stated. So I think that's something we need to look at as a council and evaluate. It's a huge challenge.
Understood. The one thing too is, we're not going to have cash flow problems or aggregate budget problems really until fiscal year 17. So, I mean, your point is, yes, you're basically accelerating the payment when you could delay it over a couple years. But, you know, even if it was 3 or 4 years of payback, you know, it's still not going to affect, you know, our position in fiscal year 17 or so.
Well, but I disagree, because if we're not having cash flow problems, why are we, you know, sitting here talking about $6,000 leaf pickup? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we either have cash flow problems or we don't have cash flow problems. It's one or the other. And I personally think obviously we do. We have to be tight with our budget. And if we are being tight with the budget and we're going through this line by line and talking about these different items that we might cut or might reduce or add an $8 burden on the water bill, I think that just a one-shot $600,000 payment that doesn't necessarily have to be there is something we definitely have to look at. Because if we split it over 2 fiscal years, the payments aren't going to be that far apart anyway. It's not like, due to the delay in building, it's going to be depriving them of the funds they need anyway. So that truly helps our cash flow. So, well, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, look at that and bring it back again in 2 weeks. Either way, we gotta pay 1.8 or whatever it is. But we do it over 2 years, and makes this budget look better. Next year's a little bit worse. But I mean, in the agreement, what does it say?
I don't know, I would rather quote it correctly, so
Okay.
it'll give me till the next meeting.
No, very good point.
Well, and if the agreement says, I mean, I'm not looking to break any agreements. I mean, whatever we agree to, but the way that it's worded in the proposed budget, when you go through the line item, it says, we just thought it'd be best for us to accelerate the payment and make it now. That doesn't sound like it's required.
No, but that would mean you would get 100% of the amusement tax then, so they're planning on future expenditures. What's suggested is a realistic view prospectively, but I'll get you the absolute facts of the agreement. I don't want to misspeak.
Thank you.
No, good point. What else we got? Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions on page 84. If you go down to item number 5151054005499, bad debt, and that's due to non-payment of utility bills. I may have second thoughts for voting to continue to do Yorkville Bristol Sanitary District billing, because it looks like, and I'm wondering how many people who get their water shut off because they can't pay their utility bills would be able to afford it if we didn't have the Bristol, the sanitary district amount on our bills. And I think there's quite a few in that does use a lot of staff time to, we've got the guys that have to go out and turn off their water. And then we have the ladies that, you know, there's liens on certain properties. So I don't know if we should readdress that or bring it up at another meeting just to have them do their own and, again, handle their complaints and make it easier on the people. If they're not going to pay a bill, it certainly is going to be that one, not the cities, because it's so much more than ours.
There's no risk of getting your water shut off.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, there's a standard provision usually between cities and sanitary districts that non-payment of the sanitary district fee is as good as not paying your water bill. So that would be a policy decision, you know, we would have to make if we were to kick them off of our bill, whether we would want to do that. From an overall government perspective, you know, if you don't do that, it's going to result in higher bad debt for them, which may result in everybody's costs increasing overall.
So when we write up this bad debt, does a portion of it go back to them? Like, this is all for unpaid utility bills, right?
Correct.
So if we write off a utility bill, are they paying us a prorated amount of bad debt?
No, because what happens is we lien, so then there's fees attached to the lien, and then when the lien is paid, then the revenue gets parceled back out.
And the revenue is never paid, and they're taking care of their bad debt.
No, we're not. We're actually just running off the receivable, because you keep in mind, if you look in the budget, there's bad debt in the general fund for garbage, bad debt in sewer for the sewer maintenance fee, bad debt in the water fund for water, and then YBSD isn't a fund of the city, it's an escrow account, but I would just write down their receivable amount, so they're gonna get less as a result of that non-payment.
So we only pay YBSD what people have paid us. If nobody pays the bill, then YBSD doesn't get any money.
So it's not out of our pocket.
Correct.
It's just on paper.
Correct.
It looks like it, but it's not out of our pocket.
Yeah, and the bad debt, remember, it's a budgeted line item, so, you know, it goes off the books, and then, you know, we receive revenue whenever it gets paid, you know, in future fiscal years. We're just not assuming that it's going to get paid within 12 months.
The billing in general, we'll go to admin or public works, we'll finish it out again.
Okay, on the same page, we have treatment facility services, and the actual cost was $85,003, and we're budgeting $100,000. That's quite a jump. Is there a reason?
I'd have to go back and look at average values. If I had to guess off the top of my head, we probably budgeted for $100,000 in fiscal year 12, and then it just came in under budget. So we probably based the fiscal year 13 number off of what we had budgeted in fiscal year 12. I'll go back and check.
Which one are you looking at, Rose?
The treatment facility services.
Services or, oh.
515.
10 down or so. Yeah.
Got it.
5445 are the last one on that.
Okay, and then we have account number 5151056005630, small tools and equipment. We actually spent in 2012 $459, and this budget has $4,000. Can you answer?
We bought trench shoring. We bought safety equipment out of trench shoring out of this. It was shoring that we use. It's portable shoring, hydraulic shoring that we can take in smaller holes that keep you guys safe.
And that's what you're proposing for the 13?
We did by this year, and next year we're going to keep adding equipment like that, the smaller tools and equipment, where we didn't last years before. We basically taken them out of individual or other line items where we created this line item for small tools and equipment.
Okay.
Okay, so this year they spent $4,000, it's proposed to go down to $2,000.
And then we have the third one up on the same page, equipment, and nothing was budgeted for or spent in 2012, but now we're asking $16,000.
I believe that relates to separating out line item titles. Rob might be able to comment on that individually. So that would have been, like last year, it would have been maybe outside repair and equipment would have contained, let's say, $40,000. And then, go ahead.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but therefore, meter replacements?
Yes.
Yeah. Just a little budgeting out of there.
It's actual, that's what exactly what it is. It's the actual replacements of the meter reading equipment. We went to have ours worked on this year, and they actually do not make the model, and the only way they get parts is if people trade them in. So we have to wait on the parts.
They sound like CanCom.
Pretty much it happens to be implemented the system.
So why is that a new line item?
Rob wanted to, I believe, track that as an equipment expenditure for the two guns.
Okay. So then was that part of another line item last year?
It probably was, and I think it's something we want to track separately, because anything over $5,000 we have to capitalize for audit purposes, and it's just easier to segregate it and do a separate line item like that.
So that was your question, is why is it a new, or why is it going from 0 to 16,000? And I believe it's because it's a new line item. So we'll check on that and get back to you.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now.
Okay, anyone else? Anything else for discussion tonight? Wide open, everything's good. So the next meeting, we're going to get a lot more information, justification from the library. The other thing, we said go ahead and throw back in the budget. Maybe come back with proposals for senior garbage subsidy. try and look at something that would implement a needs-based system.
For next meeting, we will not hand out new budgets the way we've done it the past couple of years. Is we're going to give you a list of all the changes, the line items, how they affect the funds. That way, you don't have to worry about dealing with two versions.
I scribbled all over. Do we have any additional business? Yes, ma'am.
What did you just say? I just have one item. This is regarding Heritage Woods. They're going to be holding a fundraiser for Kendall Area Transit during the Supportive Living Week. April 28th marks the beginning of the Supportive Living Week, and the Voluntary Action Center, VAC, operator of the Community Transportation Program, CAT, and Heritage Woods of Yorkville are going to be joining together to celebrate. Supportive living provides a wonderful alternative to a nursing home or to struggling alone at home by making affordable assisted living available to older adults of all incomes. By combining apartment-style housing with personal care and other services, residents can live independently and take part in decision-making. Personal choice, dignity, privacy, and individuality are emphasized. Heritage Woods is a supportive living community, has celebrated Supportive Living Week annually since it opened in 2007. While planning is ongoing for various festivities, past events have included open houses, ice cream socials, and games with special prizes. And they're also this year going to be holding a silent auction fundraiser for VAC for use in the CAP program. The silent auction will be held all through Supportive Living Week during scheduled events. All money raised from the silent auction will be donated to VAC with a match from Heritage Woods up to $500. And if anybody would like to donate items to the silent auction, please contact Samuel Clemens. He's the Director of Marketing and Sales at Heritage Woods, and his phone number is 882-6502. All the items should be donated no later than Friday, April 12th. And that's all I have. And I think that's wonderful that they're going to do something like that to support a program. And I know there's many people in Heritage Woods that use the bus service.
Yeah, the same note, I meant to mention it during the liaison reports, but this month I'll be delivering Meals on Wheels for the Mayor's for Meals program. I know Meals on Wheels is always looking for volunteers and support. You can contact Louise over at the Beecher Center. It's always fun to get out there and deliver meals. I do it a couple times a year. But I know they're looking for drivers. Since Laura is here tonight, I want to thank Laura for all her work on the ITOP grant. I was going to mention it last meeting, but she wasn't here. We received $471,000. How much? $491,000 for downtown streetscape improvements. So very nice work. That'll come in handy. I also wanted to mention, aside from it being Bart's birthday today, I guess you're legal drinking age now.
Now I feel bad for being mean.
But this past week, Bart did become a credentialed manager, as credentialed by the ICMA, the International City County Management Association, which is a big deal. There are only 94 credentialed managers in the state of Illinois, and only 1,300 in the world. So, and out of the 94 in Illinois, I think quite a few are retired.
17 of them.
17 are retired, so very nice accomplishment. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it takes to become credentialed?
Yeah, sure. It's based on education. So I have a master's degree in public administration at NIU, so that actually reduces the amount of years that you need but it's 7 years is the minimum requirement for experience as a chief administrative officer or high-level assistant. You have to pass an applied knowledge assessment, which was, I took it 2 years ago. It was like a 300 question multiple choice exam based on all operations of municipal government. And then probably the best thing is that I have to commit to 40 hours of professional development each year, report back to a review board that will review what I've done, make sure that it's up to current standards. And so, hopefully the thought is that I'm being tracked and knowledgeable on the latest trends in municipal government.
Very nice. Well, good work.
Thank you.
Any other additional business? No executive session. Do we have any other citizen comments on anything they would like to discuss?
Hi, my name is Carol, and we've already talked about several of the items. I think it's been fine, I appreciate that. But we're now talking about the roads and the repairs. When they start on Route 27, is there going to be some connection between either IDOT and the city or the school district and the bus people so that they're able to get the kids to the schools on the south side without running down every residential street that goes out of Route 47, which is pretty much what we're doing now. Therefore, they are banging up the edges of every street that goes east of 47 and you come around the corner and, hello, there's a large bus being issued, which I know they have to be somewhere, but maybe you guys can talk to them while you're talking about the other stuff on the streets and what's going to happen with the highway going south of town here or going north. I know they're going at least around 1.6, I think. And I would think that there would be some arrangement where the buses would be assigned one street to ruin all their waiting for the power. Okay? Thank you.
And probably something we could communicate with the bus company and the school district, maybe
Yes.
put a bus plan in place?
Yes, and the bus company has been in frequent contact with us, especially while they were waiting to start construction. So, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other citizen comments? Hearing none, we will adjourn this meeting. Meeting adjourned.